Hey, it's Chris with Life 180, and today I want to talk to you about the biggest mistake that life insurance agents make when selling life insurance. Now, this is going to be a touchy subject because I think a lot of agents out there have been trained, especially when being brought through the traditional channels of life insurance. The hard part is we get trained to sell life insurance based on a want product. That's one thing I was always told when I was coming up through the ranks is, there's an element of you want to play guilt into people's lives, and it's all about, hey, if you don't love your family, then of course you don't need this. This isn't about you, it's about your family. And there's, that never really jived with me. I was never the agent that could sit across the table from people and try to make them feel guilty or try to sell them a product that they didn't really align with. I mean, the reality is if they don't love their family enough to get the life insurance, like, I agree with the sentiment. I'm not the guy who's going to sit across the table and make somebody feel guilty about it, right? And so that's not something that really sat well with me. For everybody who's out there who loves the idea of utilizing life insurance as an asset, like I do, right? Because mind you, I'm not licensed anymore. I can't sell life insurance, but I coach entrepreneurs and I help them set up properly structured whole life insurance products to implement as part of a financial system to increase the efficiency of their business and their life, right? Like that's ultimately what it's all about. I always kind of come at it from the angle of, listen, we all need to think about what's the result that we want in life and then reverse engineer our abilities to be able to get there. And so my question to people is always, is what you're doing with your money getting you closer to the results that you want in your life? And most people either say, I don't know, or no, right? Like I would say 95 to 99% of the people I ever talk to can not confidently say that, yes, I'm certain that what I'm doing is getting me closer to where I want to go on a guaranteed basis. And so that's where this strategy comes in. Now, the number one mistake that agents make is they oversell and they don't educate enough. Now, I think a lot of that is because a lot of agents don't understand how to educate because you're not educated enough yourself. And that's ultimately why I do this channel a lot, is I like to create content that helps people understand different angles, tactics, what have you, about life insurance. Whether you're somebody who is looking to buy life insurance and you're looking to use it in your own personal life and financial system, I'd like to create the value for that. If you're a life insurance agent, I like to teach you how to build your business online using the best online marketing tactics and strategies today. But also, I was a top producer and a top business development guy. I went around the country and I trained agents how to sell. I certified and trained under Don Blanton at Circle of Wealth, and it's like I love life insurance. But here's the bottom line. What I know is everybody wants to buy because if they didn't want to buy, they wouldn't meet you in the first place. If they didn't have a need, they wouldn't meet you in the first place, unless you just kind of asked them to do you a favor and let you practice, which is, I know, another method of prospecting for new people with certain companies. Unless that's you, and you need that, then I would say don't do that. But ultimately, if they're meeting with you, that means they have a need. That means they have questions or concerns. And the problem is, if they're not willing to open up to you and they haven't opened up to you as to why or what those are about, that just means they don't trust you enough yet, right? They're not willing to get vulnerable enough with you. And so that's the one thing I think that we did that changed the game. That's how I created over $1 million in premium from leads just generated on YouTube alone for one of my clients, right? Like, that's because what we did was, instead of saying, okay, we're gonna just push our agenda and push our mousetrap, push our whole life insurance on these people, and because, listen, we know they need it. And it doesn't matter. You can be 100% right. It could be the best fit for them. It could be the best, financial tool in the world for them, and they may absolutely need it right now, but it doesn't matter what you think. It only matters what they feel, right? Nobody wants to be pushed into buying something until they fully understand it. So what's important is that you take a step back, you think about, okay, what are their questions? The person who asks the best questions always wins. So if you're able to, in that conversation, take a step back and say, okay, I'm gonna stop trying to sell them on this concept and start asking questions from them about what are their needs, what are their objectives, what are their concerns, what are they currently doing, what's working for them out of that, what's not working for them out of that. If they could have their money do something for them, what would they want that thing to be, right? Because what you do there is you're able to ask these questions and then give suggestions, because they're going to think to themselves, well, I don't know. Well, now you can rip off a list of different things that whole life insurance can do for them, right? And so then they start thinking, oh yeah, that actually makes sense. And so then when you get into that place where they're starting to open up with you and you're asking them questions and the conversation's flowing, sometimes they're gonna allow you to go down that pathway right away. Most of the time, they're not going to. So this is the thing that you need to do. You need to make sure that you either have resources that you can plug them into and actually purely educate them, or you need to create your own resources if they don't exist out there. In fact, I would say creating your own resources is absolutely the best way to go about it. In fact, there's not even a close second place as far as that goes, because what happens is you want to be the one who is establishing that credibility with the person that you're trying to work with, right? And so what happens is if there's another resource on another website, if it's another resource anywhere else, ultimately, even if it's corporately driven, even if you're the life insurance company you're working with, like I know New York Life has a lot of content, Northwestern Mutual has a lot of content, stuff of that nature. I know a lot of these companies have their own corporate content, but the problem with that is it doesn't get them to buy into you, right? So remember, they don't want to be sold, but they do want to buy, but they also want to buy and work with the person that they know understands this stuff the most. So just because your corporation, your company creates all this content and product, a content about the product for education, doesn't mean that you fully understand it the same way. So if you're able to give them that, but also, because that gives validity to it, but also give them some videos of you talking about it, that establishes yourself as the expert. And then all of a sudden now they're able to sit at home from the peace and comfort and tranquility of their house without feeling like they're being sold, and they can sit down with their spouse if they're married, and they can actually watch these videos, come up with their own questions, circle back with you with those questions, or come to the point where they sell themselves on why this is the best fit for them. I'm a big believer with what you do. If you focus on life insurance as an asset, if you just handle this the right way and you give the right education after asking the right questions, and the education that they're looking for, because everybody's a little different. Everybody has their own understanding gaps, we'll say. It's important to really get there. And once you have that understanding and get them the right information, your close rate should go up infinitely. I mean, I'm talking 200-300% higher close rate than where you were at before if you do it effectively. But remember, you got to stop trying to sell on the place, at the point of sale. I know that's going to be hard for a lot of people, and I know that's counter to a lot of training that people give. But what you have to do is you got to focus on education, focus on service, because this is a big ask. And doing this strategy is totally contrarian to the way the rest of the world wants them to think about doing their money. You got the government, you got their company, you have traditional people on TV, all telling them to do something in a certain way, which is put their money into qualified accounts, put their money into 401ks and other financial vehicles that everybody else has an incentive of, and they, where the person you're trying to work with is going to lose control of their money. Your prospect is going to lose control of their money, and they're going to put themselves in financial jeopardy. Period. There's no way around it. So, but you have a lot of outside forces that are going to be fighting against the message that you're trying to share with them. So rather than try to sell, if you try to sell, they're not going to trust you, and then they're going to look to these outside sources, and they're going to be like, "Why does that not make any sense? It doesn't make any sense what Mr. Insurance Agent is telling me, because everybody else is saying this." And so if they're confused, a confused mind always says no. If they don't trust you, they're not going to work with you. But if you go from the place of saying, "Listen, I don't want to sell you anything. I don't want you to do anything until you fully understand it," right? Because that's the problem with the financial industry in general right now. There's a massive lack of financial literacy. So what I want to do is I want to educate you as to how this works, how it could look like in your life specifically, and let's create a vision for where you want to go, and I'll help you show how this tool can get you there on a guaranteed basis for the rest of your life, right? That's where it comes down to. Then you ask questions, you plug in the answers, and you go from there. You share the resources. And once you share the resources, that's where they're gonna get the comfort, that's where they're gonna get the education, and that's where they're gonna build the trust that you are the expert and the person that they want to work with, and they will ultimately end up selling themselves. And if you do this, you shift from the position of a salesperson to an order taker. It's that simple. Trust me, we've done it tons and tons of times. It's amazing. It's a little uncomfortable when you first start because it's so much different. But in the world that we live in today, where people are going to the internet, where people have access to resources on the internet that they didn't have a decade ago, people's buying patterns have changed, but the way that life insurance companies have trained people to sell has not, and there's a huge gap there. And so my encouragement to you is to look beyond that gap and figure out the solutions, and that's what I just gave you. So I hope that helps. I hope it serves you, and if you found value in this, make sure you go down below, click that subscribe button. I'm gonna be creating a lot of content, and hit the bell. That way you get notified every single time I release a new video, because I'm gonna be releasing a ton of agent training content. If you like this, if you found value in this video, I'm gonna have a lot of videos coming out just like it. So I hope that helps. I hope you have a blessed, inspirational day. We'll talk soon.